I couldn't fit the cheese from our Honey Nut Cheerio episode into one container, so I cut it in half. As they were now, they had very little salt and very little flavor at all. One half I attempted to brine, but it caused it to break back down into curds. The other half I washed in a Rausch beer from 12 Guns Brewing Company in Bristol. Then I smoked it with cherry wood. Both batches clearly needed more salt, and the beer conveyed way more bitterness than expected, given the low amount of hops. It had been a lot of fun, but I wasn't nuts about how they turned out. So, I went back for more milk and took a second crack at cheese making. I was gonna try and make a cheddar. First, we bought some mesophilic culture. Mesophilic means it likes moderate temperatures, like those between 70 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We warmed the milk up to 86 degrees, then added the culture. This culture is going to start breaking down lactose into lactic acid. We gave it 90 minutes to start working, then measured out our rennet and added it. After an hour, the milk is thickened up nicely. I wildly sliced the mass into curds, trying to make them no bigger than a ½ inch or so, but with difficulty because the milk keeps spinning. Now that we have our curds, we need to firm them up. I get the whey back up to 86 degrees and gently start spinning the curds around until the grid shape has been broken up. I stir for 15 minutes, then start raising the temperature slowly, stirring all the while as we approach, and then hold at 102 degrees. I stir that for another hour. This process is supposed to firm up the curds. By the time I'm done stirring, the curds easily settle down below the whey. We don't need this much whey anymore, so I'm going to pour it off. I'm not dumping it down the drain, of course. We'll see what becomes of this whey in another video. In the meantime, the cheese curds go in a casserole dish to sit in some of the whey for a ½ hour longer, and then it's time to drain the rest of it out. I wring the bag a little bit, but mostly I just flip it every ½ hour or so for 3 hours, letting the culture continue to do its work. We start to lose temperature a little, so I heat up the oven and just leave the curds on top of it to absorb some ambient heat. After 3 hours of cheddaring, it's time to salt and press the cheese. I've got some alder smoked sea salt that I'd like to use, so I crush it up relatively fine and sprinkle it amongst the curds. Then I load the curds into our cheese bag. I don't have a proper mold or cheese press, so we built this instead. The false bottom for the mash tun goes on top of the baking sheet, and then the tube pan on top of that. The bag of cheese curds goes inside the pan, and then the tube part goes on top of the cheese bag. Now I can load it up with weight. I've got 20 pounds worth of coin rolls, so I spread them around to distribute the weight across the cheese. In the morning, I take the cheese and wipe away all the whey that has been pressed out. The bag goes back into the press, and I increase the weight again, this time to 50 pounds. After 4 hours at 50 pounds, I wipe the cheese disc dry of whey and wrap it in clean, dry cheesecloth. I flip the cheese one more time and put it back into the press for a full 24 hours. Even after a whole day, barely any more whey has been squeezed out. It's pretty dry. To bandage our cheese disc for long-term aging, we're supposed to soak the cheesecloth in lard. We have bacon fat, and wrap the cheese tightly. As it ages, a little bit of mold will supposedly develop on the outside, but you just brush it all off the rind and you're good to go. I feel pretty nervous about that, but all the guides say it's normal, so I'm gonna try to roll with it. We'll age it down here in the cellar and flip it daily, and in a few months we should have some decent cheese. This was a lot of fun. I wish I could try some now, but unfortunately, like homebrewing, cheese making is an exercise in patience.